All right, guys, so we're going to go over some notes, kind of what we did the other day. Those first 3 or 4 slides that we talked about the other day, Mr. Shepherd. We're going to go over those real fast. Then we'll jump into our new lesson for today. Then we will watch a video. Then we will do an assignment. Sounds like a lot, but you know, it's not that bad. Not that bad. All right. Talking about political governments. Why do we need governments? Humans need the help of others to survive. They therefore live in the communities. The organizations that people set up to protect the community is called governments. You know, we talked about this as far as government protects the lives, liberties, and properties of members of the community. They also have the power to use the force. We talked about the riots, government using the military to protect lives, liberty, property, and members of the community. They also have the power to use force. So if something's going on in the community that lives are in danger, liberties are in danger, property is being damaged, then the government does have the authority to use force. So that's why you see sometimes during the protests, if some of the protests turned violently, then you would see different things. So again, going back over what we talked about before, the totalitarian system, this government controls everything. All aspects of a person's life are controlled by the government. The government controls the education, the government controls the military, the police, the television, the radio, the newspaper. Totalitarian governments have the right to ban religion, books, criticize, and anybody that criticizes the government. So if we stayed in a place with a totalitarian government, if they didn't like, you know, what books was in the library, or if the books was in the library spoke up against the government could have those books removed. You know, we may not agree with everything that happens in our country, but at least we have the right to voice our opinion, or even read a magazine with a different opinion, or watch something on TV with a different opinion. But when it comes to a totalitarian system, the government controls everything. All aspects of a person's life are controlled by the government. So a lot of us couldn't survive in a totalitarian government system. So that's what that is. Again, an example of a totalitarian government would be a dictatorship. So when we speak about dictatorships, you know, one of the main dictators that everybody talks about is Hitler. Dictator is a single person, has complete power over others. A dictator has power by force or is placed in position of power. Dictators are free to do as they please. People have few or no rights. So an example would be Hitler. A now example would be Kim Jong-un. He's in North Korea, and he's a dictator in a sense, where he controls he has complete power over others. He takes things by force, and he's free to do as he pleases. So when you're in North Korea, I mean, you better abide by his rules, or you know, he can have you put in jail, or he can have you killed. So that's an example of a say it again. Totalitarian. There you go, totalitarian system. Example is dictatorship. Miss Davis, you are so smart. So smart. Yeah, so do we understand as we break down each system? So if I was to ask you, because we're going to do an assignment right here, if I were to ask you for an example of this right here, you would know North Korea, and when we say Kim Jong-un, because he kind of controls everything. When you think about this type of government right here, and you just break down, stop at this word right here, you think total, just stop right here, total. When it says total, this system right here, it controls everything. So when somebody is inside this type of level of the total, it controls everything, all aspects of government. All aspects of government. All right? Just follow on your notes. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. You all right with me, Mr. Shepherd? Like, so I'm going to go over these kind of quick because we kind of mentioned it yesterday. Mentioned Friday, Monday. This week's been going by pretty fast. But I wanted to get into this. So, monarchy, rulers inherit power. Inherit power. When a ruler dies, power passes on to the son/daughter or a close family member. Okay? We see this a lot in Britain, where the ruler passes down, king or queen dies, and they pass it down to someone else, their son or their daughter. Did anybody happen to see the interview between, you probably ain't got into it, I don't know if you guys got into it, but did you happen to see the interview with Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? See, guys, you got to put down your TikTok for a little bit. Sometimes search some current events. But anyway, Prince Harry was a prince over in Britain, and now him and his wife, who was Meghan Markle, they stay in America now. They've kind of denounced themselves from Britain. If it's not on TikTok, you guys don't see it. You guys gotta look at it. We may play that interview though, just to get you guys. We may play it. All right, we need to know about the two types of monarchy. We need to know about the two types of monarchy right here, okay? All right, this is very, very, very important. Very important. The first part right here that says ruled by divine right. When we hear the word divine, right, what word do we need to be associating it with?
Power.
Yeah, power. I like it. But when we hear the word divine, we need to think of one word. And that's God. Okay? When we think about divine power, we need to think about God. Okay? Divine power, think about God. So when it says ruled by divine right, that basically says God has gave them the right to be the ruler. All right? So when Miss Davis, if Miss Davis is to become queen, and I said, well, how is Miss Davis going to be a queen? You know, how is that? Miss Davis would say, you know what? I'm the queen because of divine right. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? And she could say, because God said I was supposed to be a queen. That's what she believes, and we believe. So she could say she needs to be the queen because of divine right. When I think of the word divine, I'm thinking about God. God said this person is supposed to be queen, or this person is supposed to be king. All right? That is very important right there. Ruled by divine right, absolute power. You have absolute power. Kings or queens claim all the power. Power was divine right. I am a ruler because God wants me to rule. Ordinary people have no rights unless the monarchy allows. Constitutional monarch. This is power shared between the king and the queen and legislature. Example would be United Kingdom. That means a king and a queen, they share power. Example that would be in the United Kingdom. Also, Thailand has a constitutional monarch system. All right? So, an absolute monarch, ruled by divine. Two types of monarch, ruled by divine right. That means what word we need to associate with divine? God. That means God wants me to be ruler. And the constitutional monarch, that means the king and the queen. Oh, Miss Davis, share. That's what I'm talking about. The word geography, your highest grade is. I guess because I'm the best teacher. All right, example of a, you know your highest grade. Example of a divine right that God says would be like in England and in modern day Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, y'all seen the movies with Saudi Arabia has those kings and queens dressed in those nice outfits. It's because they feel they have divine right. God has made them king or queen. So in Saudi Arabia. All right. Next, we are talking about, we'll ask this question right here. Critical thinking. For kings are not only God's lieutenant upon earth and sit upon God's throne, but even by God himself are called gods. Okay, I'm going to read this one more time. For kings are not only God's lieutenants upon earth and sit upon God's throne, but even by God himself are called gods. Okay, so we talked about what words associated with God. Answer this question. Do you think the speaker speaks in favor of divine right? I would say yes. Because basically he's saying God's lieutenants, but even by God himself are called gods. He's comparing himself sitting on the throne. I would say yes. And I just, why or why not is because that's what he's explaining. He's explaining his reasonings for being on the throne. Talking about God, because God wants him to be on the throne. He's basically associating himself with kings and gods. He's basically combining those, saying that God's lieutenants, he sits upon the throne because he is God. God wants him to sit upon the throne. All right. So next, we talked about the republic. The republic is the government bound by law. Example would be the United States. Some republics choose representatives to make decisions. Some republics is also ruled by a group of nobles. So basically this here says some republicans choose representatives to make decisions. So you see everybody have those signs in the yard. You be like, vote for such and vote for this. Right now in our community, we got the mayor is being voted on. So you see a lot of signs in the yard talking about vote for the mayor. So basically, this is saying the way the government we live in, we're electing a mayor. We're electing a mayor of Lufkin to represent and to make the decisions based for us. That's why we choose a candidate that supports our beliefs or whatever. So that's what's going on in our community. And it says some Republicans also may be ruled by a group of nobles. So when it says may be ruled by a group of nobles, it makes me think of like the school board. The school board is made of like 6 or 7 people. They are a group. They're elected, and they're ruled by a group of nobles. And, a group right there makes me think of the school board. Some Republicans choose a representative, makes me think of us choosing a mayor or even a president. For example, the United States. The United States is an example of a republic government. Okay? Republic government, where government is bound by law. All right. Remember, in the totalitarian government, it's ruled by one person. He or she oversees everything. They control everything. They control the law. They control everything. But in the republic system, the government is bound by law. All right. So now we've kind of recapped what we went over the other day. So now let's jump into some new forms of government. All right. Now, democracy. You see, understand right here. Let's write these down. Democracy. People vote on issues directly or elect representatives who make government decisions for them. Government authority is based on the will of the people. All right? For example, we are in, you write that down, Mr. People vote on issues directly or they elect representatives who make government decisions for them. Government authority is based on the will of the people. So if I'm thinking about democracy, do we live in a democracy? Would you say we live in a democracy? Because why do you think we live in democracy? Because we do what? We vote on issues directly, or we elect representatives who make the government decisions for us. We just talked about who we elect. We elect the mayor, we elect the president to make decisions for us. Government authority is based on the will of the people. So right now in our country, you can see that we have a lot of stress and strife because the will of the people is so divided. And that's why our country is kind of having some issues. Yes, why our country is trying to have some issues because our will, some people believe our will needs to be this. Some people believe our will needs to be this. Some people believe some people believe our representative needs to be this person. Some other people believe our representative needs to be that person. The whole issue about, about the presidency and the election is people was kind of saying that our democracy was infringed or our democracy was not upheld. That's why we had the issues right there. And anytime you see democracy, a good sign for democracy would be Uncle Sam right here. Uncle Sam wants you. All right. United States will be an example of a democracy. United States will be an example of a democracy. You got it, Mr. Chairman? All right. So there are two types of democracy. Two types of democracy. Okay. We kind of just mentioned this just a second ago. There's a direct democracy and there's a representative democracy. All right. The direct democracy first arose in Athens. This is where people vote on issues directly, no representatives. So Ms. Davis has something she wants to vote on, and she wants to choose that we have no school on Fridays. Every Friday, Ms. Davis wants to vote that no school on Friday. Ms. Davis, you good with that? All right, then. So you're gonna go vote for that yourself directly, because you don't want to come to school on Fridays. So you're voting for that. So that would be an example of a direct democracy, because people vote on issues directly. You don't need any type of representatives to vote on that for you. That would be a type of direct democracy. So representative democracy would mean people elect representatives to make government decisions. So if all three of us got together and we elected somebody to make our decision for us for the government, that would be a representative democracy. We didn't actually cast a vote, but we elected someone to vote for us on our behalf. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, just trying to make sure. I just want to kind of clarify, because I think we're in a time now in our society where we need to know how democracy works, how government works, what kind of government we're in, so we can have better clarification of things. Two types of democracy. A direct democracy, that's when people vote on an issue directly, no representative. Representative democracy is when you elect a representative to make government decisions. Got it, boss? Cool beans. Cool beans. We rocking and rolling. Rocking and rolling. All right. So when we talk about this here, here's just a picture right here. It just shows the voting, the people. Vote, representative, vote people. What you say?
So write it down?
No. I'm just showing you how this looks right here.
Okay.
Just a little picture to better explain how this goes. As you see right here, all the people right here are voting. This is a really good picture. Like I said, it just better explains democracy, and it better explains representative democracy. See how all these people right here, they're voting directly. So that's kind of direct democracy. This side right here, you have the people, but right, you have a representative in between, and the representative is voting. That will be the representative democracy. Oh, I think that picture does a real good job of really explaining the difference between direct democracy and representative democracy. It really does. So now when we talk about the types of representative democracy, we're going to talk about these two types. It's a presidential and a parliamentarian. Okay? Presidential kind of self-explanatory. Citizens elect the president as a leader of a country. Example, the United States. We just went through that whole process in November, where the United States elected President Biden to be the president. Parliamentarian, this is a little different than the United States voting for a president. Parliamentarian, this is when the citizens elect a representative to make government decisions for them. Leader is called the prime minister. For example, would be Canada. Canada would be an example of a representative democracy. You definitely want to know Canada is a example of parliamentary government. And a leader is not in Canada and Britain. These people are not called presidents. They're called prime ministers, and they're elected by a body represented to make government decisions. Little different to where we elect a president as a leader of the country. This here says the citizens elect a body and representative to make government decisions for them. And the leader is called a prime minister. An example of that would be Canada. You definitely need to know that. All right. We got it? I'm good. I'm good. Two types of government, and another parliamentarian government would be over in Great Britain. They have a prime minister. Leader is called the prime minister. All right. Next, so we're going to ask a question. Basically, it says, if liberty and equality, as is thought by some, are chiefly to be found in democracy. All right, so we know about equality. We've heard that a lot. Liberty, freedom, equality, as thought by some, are chiefly found in democracy. So if you have democracy, this question is saying if you have democracy, that means you have liberty and equality, correct? Okay. That will be best obtained when all persons alike share in the government to the utmost. What aspect of democracy is the speaker referring to? Do you agree with the speaker or not? So, if liberty and equality, as is thought by some, are chiefly to be found in democracy, they will be best obtained when all persons alike share in the government to the utmost. Sharing persons sharing the government to the utmost. So, basically, we're saying equality, liberty, democracy. If we share alike, so we're talking about all of us. Will kind of be a representative democracy. Also, kind of, I won't say direct democracy too. A little bit of both. So now let's get into some different types of, another last type of government that is very, very critical in this country. All right? So, theocracy. This is a new one that we need to talk about. Theocracy. Theocracy, and we talk about theocracy, has to do with it is ruled by a religious leader. It has no separation between church and state. Leaders claim government is directed by God. For example, Iran. You know, we just got over, in our last unit, we talked about different religions. So this kind of ties it all together. Theocracy is another form of government. It's ruled by religious leaders. No separation between church and state. Leaders claim government is directed by God. For example, Iran. So when it says basically no separation between church and state, in America, do we have a separation between church and state? Say again? Yes. We do. Yes, we do. We don't try to mix church and state. We don't try to mix church and state. That's good, Mr. James. But check this out. And that's just the difference. You can know the difference. But in theocracy, they don't have any separation between church and state. It's the same. Because it's ruled by a religious leader. Leaders kind of claim to be directed by God. So remember about directed by God, what word associated with when you say God? Divine. Good, Miss Davis. Good. It's divine. For example, it'd be Iran, okay? I want to make sure that we have these governments down on this next slide right here. I want to make sure we have the governments down on this next slide. Right here. Make sure we have these systems down. Totalitarian system. All right. A totalitarian system. Remember, when we're looking for totalitarian system, we're looking for what word? Total. That means the control of all governments. Example of a totalitarian would be a dictatorship. That means when one person controls the entire government. Absolute monarchy. Theocracy. Democracy, republic, constitutional monarchy, and theocracy. Absolute monarchy is the same as what we talked about when we say divine right. That's the absolute monarchy, that's what divine right kind of means, right? Absolute democracy. Theocracy, that means it's ruled by religion. The government is ruled by religion. The democracy, free, liberty, equality, we all have the right to vote. Republic, that means it's government by law. Constitutional monarchy, that means a king and a queen share power. And we had democracy, theocracy written twice. And I want to bring up one more thing when I talk about, as we're talking about government, that we didn't discuss, that we need to discuss, that usually don't get talked about. And we talk about anarchy. That word right there, anarchy. We need to know about anarchy. Anarchy. We need to know about that one. So write that one down right there, anarchy. Basically, anarchy says there's no rule of law. There's no rule. Anarchy means it's going crazy. There's no rules. There's no laws. It's kind of like the purge that took over. We have complete anarchy. That means our government is not in control anymore. It's going crazy. No laws. No rules, no nothing, okay? Anarchy, so we need to know about anarchy. Hopefully we don't ever get to anarchy, but that's just something that we definitely need to know. All right, so we want to make sure we know the 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 already. We want to make sure that we got all of them down. Okay. Dictator system, a totalitarian dictatorship. All that. We want to make sure we got all of them down. Okay. So next, let's watch a small video that's going to kind of give us an overview of what's going on, and then we will get into a assignment.
I know you guys in America have your democracy, and that's awesome. But in my country, we've been through every form of government. Let me tell you about it. You might not know who was making the rules, but there is a form of government that's governing you. And when the people get this solution, that's when we see the revolution. And keep the assholes running it. We live through every single form of government. It started out, we didn't have any law. People did whatever they wanted just because. That's anarchy. No government at all. People robbed and killed in the free for all. No police, just gangs and bandits. And so the family joined up and demanded a king to rule over the land. And when the king died, the kids ruled after him, which means that we lived in a monarchy where crowns and thrones ruled the family until somebody flat out got sick of it. Let an armed revolution just to go against, overrule the king and kidnap his kid. Overnight have guided how we live each day. With laws built properly, the leaders in charge, it wasn't theocracy. Laws came from God, one religion first, we still couldn't vote. Oppressive rules still shape the country, no joke, it was okay. If you agree, but anyone who didn't was stopping it, and we wanted a voice, and we wanted to be free. We organized as a direct democracy, where everyone gets to vote on our laws. Everyone has a voice, because we're all in charge. Things got better, and you know how it showed? The population began to explode with so many people to be spoken for, they had to better organize. Just to ensure that we all were represented, and this just means that we became a representative democracy. With a lean new team built around the Constitution and elected officials who are gonna use it. It's a long story, and it never ends, cause another revolution might come again. You might not know who's making the rules, but there is a form of government that's governing you. And when the people get disillusioned, that's when we see a revolution. You might not know who's making the rules, but there is a form of government that's governing you. And when the people get disillusioned, that's when we see a revolution.
It better kind of explains, wrapped up how all of them, you know, fits together, how all the governments fit together. So I do like those videos because they kind of break up the talking and me just talking about what goes on and all that type of stuff like that. So now what we're gonna do is we worked on the eightfold. When we worked on the eightfold, when we did the religion. Now we're gonna work on the eightfold as it pertains to the different type of governments. That's what we're gonna do. When we just wrote down those 7 types of governments, right? We just wrote down those 7 types. Hope you did. So what we're gonna do is what we do with our fold. What our fold is, we are going to fold it like this here, fold it long way. Alright. Fold it down a long way. Mine's a little jacked up, fold it long way. Alright. Then we're gonna go this way. After that, get it good. Get Michelle, what you got? Alright. Next, we're gonna wallet that thing. Like this here in the eightfold. Wallet.
Like this.
Other way. Yeah, like that. Just like that. Alright. There you go. Make your bill fold. Just like that. Got it? Make sure everything is good and tight. Good and tight. Alright. Let's open it up. Open it up. Should be like this. Should be eightfold. Just like this here. And what this is for. When we do this here, this is going to be a very good, you know, not only going to be a daily grade, but it'll be a real good study guide. Real good study guide. So in the first square, put your name, first period, in the first square. At the top. You know what? You can do it at the top or the bottom. Whatever you want to do. Just pick a square somewhere, right? Let me in one of those corners. And put your name in first period.
Big or small?
I want it pretty big. And I want the title, Forms of Government. Right? Forms of Government. Your name, first period, and Forms of Government. Name, first period. All right, that's what we need, one of those squares. We got it? I'll hold up. Yeah. I'll hold up. All right, so now, you got it, Ms. Davis? All right, so listen to me right quick before you write anything down. Let me go over the directions and then I'll let you start working on it. All right, so in each block, okay? All right, so each block that you got, at the top of each block, I want title of the government. Okay? Like I said, you don't have to write it down now. We'll just talk about this in just a minute. So, for instance, like, in the first block, I want, at the top, so if you got the A fold right here, like this, kind of like this. A fold is kind of messed up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll be like this here. So right here I got forms of government, name. All right, so right here at the top of each one of my squares, I want a name like theocracy, total system, dictatorship, direct democracy, representative democracy, and constitutional monarchy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I want direct democracy, representative democracy, and theocracy, total, direct, dictatorship, theocracy, representative democracy, constitutional democracy, direct democracy, and direct democracy, constitutional dictatorship, divine right monarchy. I want divine right. So basically, you wrote down those seven. Forms of government. I want them labeled right here. All right. So look, hold up just a second, then we'll get started. Hold up, I'll let you get started. Okay, hold on just a second. So after you write down the headings, on each one of those forms of government, right? On the bottom right here, look right here, Mr. Shepherd. On the bottom, I want a symbol that represents each form of government. Okay? So look on your phones, get your phones out, look at, Google different types of direct democracies and then click image. See what an image looks like of a direct democracy. Okay, I know this is not art class, so I'm not asking you to be great, but I am asking you to, put a little effort into it. We got plenty of time tomorrow to do this here. So I'm asking you to put a little something to it. You'll do that with all of them. We want a symbol to represent that type of government for all these types right here. So we want a symbol right here. Okay? A symbol under. All right? Well, a symbol under, for example, it'll look like this. See how that looks? That's how it looks right here. For example, it'll look like this. All right, with a symbol. All right, you see how the dictatorship had a symbol of the swastika. A lot of people, when they talk about democracy, they drew the ballot box. Oh, I really like direct democracy. A lot of people put a lot of different hands in the air. So like I said, get on your phones, check different images. You should have some different images about what the symbol should look like. All right?
Is democracy one of them?
Direct democracy and representative democracy. There'll be two. Representative democracy. So the 7 I want is the totalitarian system, dictatorship, divine right monarchy, constitutional monarchy, theocracy, direct democracy, and representative democracy. Those are the ones I want. And you need to find a symbol for those.
You said direct and
Representative. Remember, direct democracy is when you're going to go to the polls yourself. Representative democracy is when we're all electing a representative to go vote for us. All right. So we got it. So now this is what I want to do next. So once I have, like right here, I have theocracy, and I got the symbol right here, and I got the symbol underneath. Again, the symbol doesn't have to be that big, but I got the symbol. On the back page, when I flip my fold over, I want, again, the theocracy at the top, but after that, on the bottom of that, I want the definition of theocracy. Same thing we just wrote down in our notes. So you can just get Google Classroom and write down what we just wrote down in our notes, what you guys just wrote down. I want the definition. So for instance, like on this paper right here, I got, here's in the corners is constitutional monarchy right here. I got the name at the top, I got the symbol. I got the name at the top, I got the symbol. When I flip over my foldable, I got the name at the top, and then I got the definition. Name at the top, and then I got the definition. All right? So you'll have the definition, you will have the symbol, you will have the name. This will be a very, very, very good study guide to use when we take our Unit 5 test. I think, judging by my last semester's class, I think a lot of students did real good in this chapter, in this unit, because of the foldable. The foldable really gave them a good study guide. Does anybody have any questions about this assignment right here? Okay. You good, Mr. Well, you know, and what I really liked was, when I did this last semester, is that a lot of people had a lot of different symbols for these different type of forms of government that I hadn't thought about, that I thought was very, very good. And it was a representation of that form of government. So use the Google images, really search for a image that describes that government. Draw it, and then, you know, we got plenty of time. So like tomorrow, we'll be able to get into, I want you to use your math pencils. I want you to color it, like this one here is kind of done. This one right here is kind of done. I want you to color it and make it nice and neat. I think this will be, again, this is kind of a good assignment. So that's what we want to do. Does anybody have any questions?
We put constitutional?
Yes, you're gonna have constitutional monarch. You're gonna have constitutional monarch. We gotta remember what constitutional monarch is. That is when kings and queens share power. Kings and queens share power. Kings and queens share power. Alright? That's what that means right there. Different forms of government. Alright? Forms of government. Take your time, really search, really search those images, see what you can come up with, and be kind of creative. Be creative when you search for an image of that particular government. What I did last semester was I took a few of these and hung them up, because I thought they was pretty good, and showed, got to show the other classes what it needed to look like and all that. I did hang it up. So. Like I said, we'll work on this tomorrow. You'll have almost, we'll go over a few more things, but you'll have almost all class period tomorrow to work on this. So, again, I want this real nice and neat. All right. Let me show the class real quick. Okay. That's my board, my teaks, my tie. So, outline of what I got going on today. Let's go back. Go back. I get to show Miss Davis over there working. Miss Davis. Davis. I'm gonna get to show Mr. Shepherd using his phone. Okay.